go ahead and get started with our second to last session of the day. We have Pat Lamphere from Socrata, and he will be talking about security.
Thanks, Claire. Hi, everyone. I'm Pat Lamphere. I have a tendency to wander around, so I apologize in advance and also talk too fast. So please feel free to yell, throw things, whatever. Definitely want this to be more of a discussion, less of a lecture, though the room doesn't really lend itself to that. Pat Lamphere, I'm here to talk about how Socrata is doing security, our approach, and the steps we're taking to get compliant and where we go from here. So we don't have that big of a security team because we're not that big of a company. So there's myself, there's our compliance officer, Alyssa Robbins, sitting right here. We also have a dedicated analyst, Aaron Tabrink, who's back in Seattle. And we've got an open head for a security architect, if anyone would like to join us. And everybody on the team has at least a decade's worth of experience, because let's face it, if you've got a team that's that small, it's got to be people who can really hit the ground running and come from the get-go. Personally, both Aaron and I came from Microsoft previously, where we built the team that successfully found multiple APT groups on Microsoft's networks. Alyssa was at IOActive in the Gates Foundation doing security work over there. And so we take it very seriously. This is not just a hobby or anything like that. This is our day job. This is what we live and breathe. We are integrated with the engineering team, so we're not outside of the process. We're not one of those security teams that's kind of, you know, flies in and then goes away to their corner. I actually report directly to our CTO, and we're integrated in all parts of the engineering and development process. So they don't get to do anything without talking to us first. And we're very open as we get more into this talk. Really want to emphasize that if you have a question, if you have a comment, if you have a concern, anything at all, criticism, flames, whatever, you can email us directly. I'm pat.lamphere@socrata.com, or we also have our external address for the security team is osnap@socrata.com, or the more boring security-l@socrata.com. Those all work. So our philosophy. Socrata is the open data company, right? We take that and embrace that in the security world as well. Places that have been in the past, you know, the push towards secrecy really does nobody any favors other than our adversaries. So we're very open with our controls. We're very open with the data we're finding. We're very open with our analysis results, because that makes for a stronger infrastructure for everybody. It shouldn't matter if you know what my controls are. If I'm doing them effectively, I can be perfectly and completely open with those controls and what I'm doing. And let's face it, in the world of FedRAMP and other prescribed controls, you already know what I'm doing anyway. It makes no sense for me to take my SSP, System Security Plan, in federal parlance and, you know, DRM it 8 ways from Sunday and lock it in a safe somewhere. Because that doesn't give you the information you need to feel comfortable about what we're doing. And also, the more eyes we have on everything we do, the better. Because I'm going to miss something, Alyssa's going to miss something, Aaron's going to miss something. Having more people looking at it and pointing things out is better. We don't implement things just because the regulation says we have to, right? Prime example, FIPS 140-2. Great idea, right? The federal government is going to prescribe not only the encryption algorithms that are acceptable to be used, but also there's a vetted and testing process for those pieces of software and hardware that are used to encrypt devices. The problem is, something gets certified. If you update it, it has to get recertified. Moral of the story, anything that's a FIPS 140-2 validated product is 6 to 12 to 18 months behind on its security patches. So you've kind of solved one problem, but you've opened up a much bigger hole. So we use FIPS 140-2 algorithms, not the products. we don't implement some things. P3P, we've been getting this from a lot of our federal customers because it's a requirement that you have to have machine readable privacy policy, and P3P is the standard. P3P got pulled out of Firefox in 2006. The last people to support it was Microsoft with IE, and they just officially, when Windows 10 got released, killed that support as well. The party line for Microsoft now is recommended practice is to avoid deploying P3P privacy policies in your site. And so we have a place where the requirements and the regulations say you must do this thing that nobody on the internet supports or has enabled. So do we have P3P turned on? No. Why? Why put the engineering effort into something that's completely dead and deprecated? And then who here has had an audit where the auditor has come in and said, you need to do this because that's best practice? We don't count. All right. So having been an auditor in the past, actually on one of my very first engagements, I used that line. And the senior analyst on the team, Kevin Rich, good old boy from Gainesville, Florida, I think is where Kevin originally came from. Well, Pat, tell you what, I got here in my wallet $20 US. If you can do that, if you can exploit that, you go right ahead. Right there, that's yours. You go right ahead. I'll wait. I'll wait. You know, in his Southern backwoods charm way, pointing out that, hey, just because something is theoretical doesn't mean it's actually possible or even plausible based on the other controls you have. You need to look at things in a totality of the circumstances, right? So when we hear that, we push back, usually pretty hard, because it's, okay, what is the actual risk? What is the likelihood that this is going to be taken advantage of? And we talked about open security, our openness. We live it, breathe it. We have a site, opensecurity.demo.socrata.com. We actually have IOCs, indicators of compromise, TTPs, tools, tactics, and procedures that we have seen people use against us. And we share that freely. Not a big fan of sticks, taxi, any of the ISACs, just because of the low signal to noise ratio. So not only are we putting out IP addresses and timestamps and things like that in tool scene, but we're also putting out context, which is the big portion that's missing in sticks and taxi. So compliance, the alphabet soup. Currently, we have a FSMA low ATO from CMS. It expires at the end of the year. We are postponing the renewal process in the hopes that we will be done with our FedRAMP moderate certification before that. Cross your fingers, knock on wood, pray to the HHS gods that we will get through their timeline before that. So we are, our 3 PAO audit, we went with Coalfire, and they are wrapping up their documentation right now. Alyssa and I will be on site next week at HHS headquarters to do the stage 1 review of our FedRAMP documentation package, and hopefully sometime in December we will be through the stage 2, but again, that's entirely on their schedule. So we have a separate environment for FedRAMP. There's honestly not much difference between our FedRAMP environment and our non-FedRAMP environment. The FedRAMP environment does have a couple extra controls, the biggest being that our engineering team has to use Bastion hosts to get into it, and also our contractors, vendors, other third parties have no access to it. It's on a completely different region. FedRAMP is in US East, makes sense, it's for federal customers, most of them are out here. Our non-FedRAMP customers are on US West 2. Again, this is all on AWS. If you've got another certification, another process, another thing that you need to be compliant with or you need us to be compliant with, please let us know. We're more than happy to map what our controls are to whatever you may have. So the fun stuff that gets me out of bed and excited. Hunting for APTs, the advanced persistent threat, as Microsoft likes to, or Mandiant likes to call it. I like to think of it as attackers with a project manager who work 9 to 5, you know, Beijing time. Or Moscow Standard Time. So what are we doing to actually combat those nation-state threats? Because yeah, we've got the script kiddies, we've got the political activists who think it's fun to DDoS data.healthcare.gov, you know. But in reality, where's the true threat coming from? And so, first things first, let's get rid of the low-hanging fruit. Socrata has a bug bounty program, which is somewhat unusual for a company of our size, but we'll pay you up to $1,500 to find vulnerabilities in our platform. Everybody here, please go, try. It's a great way to earn a little money on the side. We have external penetration tests performed by third parties, and I don't do black box penetration tests. They get a full briefing on our architecture and our environment, so they don't waste their time trying to run Windows tools. And we also have customers that continually run scans against us, and all for that, all I ask is that you share the results. We also tune out a lot of the noise. So our IDSs, our firewalls are not configured to alert on everything. Our environment is very specific and very small footprint. So I don't have Windows signatures turned on because it's all Ubuntu, right? Doesn't make sense. Why get trapped in that noise? Things like that. Again, talked about how we're plugged into the environment and everything that we're integrated with the engineering team. Franklin and Steve in the back there can attest to me being a pain. But what we're really doing is looking for the unusual, looking for aberrant patterns of behavior. This is one of the dashboards we have, which I'm sorry, it's not very easy to read here, but this right here is the fun one. This is looking at standard deviation of message sizes. So when those start to go out, you know you've got somebody doing something out of the ordinary, right? We look at pervasiveness of just common words in the logs coming from the different Linux applications and subsystems because, you know, error or things like that. Once you see a spike, you know, something might be worth looking into. And then, of course, it really didn't render here at all, but these are all geolocation maps of where the traffic is coming from. And, you know, filtering out Bing, which is obnoxiously noisy, Google, which is slightly less obnoxious, things like that, is when you really start to see the outliers. So with that, granted this is a lightning talk, questions, comments, concerns, flames? I know we're limited on time, so feel free to reach out. Again, osnap@socrata.com, opensecurity.demo.socrata.com, or if you're interested in the architect role, careers.socrata.com. Yeah, it's an awesome place to work. So, questions? All right, well, thank you everyone for your time. I'll try to get us back on schedule.